I'm Dr. Avery Walsh, a 44-year-old pediatrician. On May 21st, 2025, I was at a parent-teacher conference for my son when everything suddenly went silent. I was having a stroke. My life was dedicated to fixing things. A sick child, a worried parent, a chaotic schedule for my two kids, Leo and Sophie. My husband, Mark, called me the family's chief operating officer, and he was right. I managed fevers and finances, scraped knees and science projects. Life was a constant hum of activity. We lived in a suburb near Austin, Texas, and our life was loud, happy, and meticulously planned. My faith was part of that plan. Church on Sunday, prayers before bed. I believed in God in a functional way. He was the great architect, the one who set things in motion. But my day-to-day world felt like it ran on my effort, my skill, my love. He was the CEO. I was the manager on the ground floor, handling the immediate crises. I didn't realize how small my picture of him was. That afternoon, I was sitting in a tiny chair in my son Leo's third grade classroom. His teacher, Miss Gable, was smiling, telling me how imaginative he was. I remember the smell of chalk dust and floor cleaner. I remember looking at a drawing of a rocket ship Leo had taped to the wall. I felt a surge of pride, a deep, simple happiness. Then, my vision blurred on one side. A strange metallic taste filled my mouth. Miss Gable's voice started to sound like it was coming through a long pipe. "Dr. Walsh, are you all right?" I tried to answer her, but my tongue felt thick and useless. A sudden, crushing pressure built behind my right eye. It wasn't pain, it was a power outage. One by one, the systems were going offline. My arm went numb. The bright classroom tilted and dissolved into a dark, swirling gray. The last thing I heard was the sound of a chair scraping back as Miss Gable jumped to her feet. Then, the silence was absolute. There was no blackness, no void. It was more like waking up, not in a physical sense, but like a dreamer finally realizing they are in a dream. The muffled chaos of the classroom faded away, replaced by an utter stillness. I felt a gentle sense of motion, not of being pulled, but of arriving. I opened my eyes and I was standing on my own 2 feet, not in a classroom, but in a place that defied description. It was a workshop, an enormous open-air workshop bathed in the warm golden light of a permanent sunset. The air itself felt solid, alive, and it hummed with a quiet, creative energy. I saw workbenches that stretched for miles, holding tools I didn't recognize. I saw half-finished projects swirling galaxies contained in glass jars, mountains being carved from raw light, blueprints for new kinds of flowers. It was a place of making, of artistry. I looked down at myself. I was wearing a simple, white version of my own clothes. I had hands, I had feet. I felt more solid, more real than I had a moment ago on Earth. It was as if my entire life had been a fuzzy, out-of-focus dream, and I had just woken up into sharp, clear reality. And I wasn't alone. A man was standing at a workbench nearby, his back to me. He wasn't a being of blinding light. He was just a man. He was wearing a simple, rugged tunic, the kind a laborer would wear. He was focused on his work, sanding a piece of dark, gnarled wood with his bare hands. As he worked, I saw tiny sparks, like motes of starlight, fall from the wood onto the floor. He didn't have to turn around. He didn't have to speak. My soul knew him. Every part of my being recognized him with a certainty that was more powerful than sight. This was the one who had imagined stars into existence. This was the artist. This was Jesus. He finished his task, setting the now smooth piece of wood down on the bench. He turned to me, and my breath caught. He looked like a man you could trust with your life. His face was kind, weathered by work and laughter. His hair was dark, his skin the color of the desert earth. There was no halo, no blinding glow. The divine quality was in his presence. The air around him was more alive. The light was warmer. The reality was stronger. But it was his eyes that undid me. They weren't cosmic or full of stars. They were simply, purely, 100% present. When he looked at me, it was the first time in my life I felt truly, completely seen. Not judged, not assessed, just seen and known and loved for it. "Avery," he said. His voice was not a sound in my head. It was a real voice, warm and with a hint of a chuckle in it. "You're early, but the work is always here. Welcome." Where am I?" I managed to ask, my own voice sounding thin in the vibrant reality of this place. "Home," he said simply, gesturing to the workshop around us. "This is the real place, what you call life. It's the shadow, a beautiful, important shadow, but a shadow nonetheless." He started walking, and I fell into step beside him. "I don't understand." "You spent your life trying to heal the shadows of children," he explained, his voice patient and kind. "A noble work, but the shadows get sick because they forget the Sunday. They get lost because they listen to echoes instead of the voice that made them. Come, let me show you." We walked, and the workshop floor beneath our feet seemed to melt away, replaced by a vast, dark field under a sky with no stars. The field was filled with billions upon billions of tiny, flickering flames. Each one was a different color, a different intensity. Some burned bright and steady, others sputtered and wavered, on the verge of going out. "Every person is a light I have lit," Jesus said, his voice soft now. "They are meant to burn brightly, to warm the world, but there are winds in the shadowlands, destructive winds that seek to put them out." As he spoke, I felt a cold breeze begin to blow across the field. I watched in horror as it swept over the flames. The strong ones held, but the flickering ones guttered violently. Some were extinguished completely, leaving a wisp of smoke. "What is that wind?" I asked, shivering though it wasn't physically cold. "It is the sound of lies," he said, "voices they have chosen to follow instead of mine." He pointed, and I could suddenly see the source of the wind. It wasn't a weather pattern, it was a person. It was the face of a hugely popular musician. I saw him not on a stage, but as a giant, ethereal figure, breathing out a cold, gray mist of sound. His music, his words of despair and emptiness became this wind that chilled the flames, that made them believe the darkness was better than the light. I saw tiny flames that had been burning with a hopeful yellow light turn a sickly, weak blue as his wind passed over them. "His time to sow this wind is coming to an end," Jesus said, his voice not angry but full of resolve, like a gardener deciding to prune a diseased branch. Then he directed my gaze to another source of disturbance. This wasn't a wind, but a sound. A mesmerizing, hypnotic hum that was drawing flames towards it, pulling them away from the safety of the field. I saw the source. A brilliant, charismatic tech mogul. He was promising a different kind of light, a cold, artificial, electric light. He spoke of a future without God, a perfection achieved through human intellect alone. And I watched as flames, one by one, uprooted themselves and drifted toward his song, their own organic light dimming as they got closer to his artificial glow. "He offers a shortcut that leads off a cliff," Jesus said sadly. "He builds a tower of human pride, and many are choosing to live in its shadow. That voice must be quieted, so they can remember the warmth of the true sun." Finally, he showed me a third disturbance. This one was the most chaotic. It was a whirlwind, a swirling vortex of anger and accusation that ripped through the field, throwing flames against each other. At the center of the storm was a political influencer, a woman whose face was on screens everywhere. Her every word was a gust of wind, fanning resentment, fear, and division. I saw bright, friendly flames turn into aggressive, scorching torches that tried to burn the flames next to them. The field was becoming a war zone because of her whirlwind. She was meant to be a peacemaker, but chose to be a divider for power, Jesus said, his gaze fixed on the chaos. The whirlwind must be stopped before the whole field is set ablaze. He looked at me, his kind eyes now filled with a deep sorrow. Before the shadow world counts another year to 2026, these great voices and others who use their platforms to blow out my lights will be brought home. Their sound will cease. It is a judgment, yes, but it is also a great mercy. I am turning down the volume of the world, Avery. I am silencing the destructive winds so that my lights, my beloved children, have a chance to hear the still, small voice that loves them. It will cause confusion in the shadows, but it will create a silence. And in that silence, many will have a chance to find me for the first time. I looked out at the field of flames, at the winds and the whirlwinds, and my heart broke. I was just a pediatrician. I fixed fevers and set bones. This was a sickness of the soul on a scale I couldn't imagine. The field faded, and we were back in the brilliant, real workshop. The peace of the place settled over me again, and I knew with every fiber of my being that I never wanted to leave. "I want to stay here," I whispered, looking at him. "In the real place, please." He put a hand on my shoulder. It was warm and solid. "My best workers are the ones who have seen the shadows," he said gently. "Your work there isn't done. They need you." "What can I possibly do?" I cried. "I'm just one person." "You are a doctor," he said, his eyes locking with mine. "Go back and tell them what the sickness is. Tell them their souls are getting sick from the noise. Tell them to be careful what voices they let into their lives. Tell them there is a real place, a true home waiting for them. Tell them the artist loves what he has made." He paused. "Go and tell them I am making all things new. Now, go." The moment he said the word go, I felt a profound sense of purpose and at the same time, a gut-wrenching sorrow. I was being sent from home, back into the dream. The solid, real world of his workshop began to thin, like a photograph fading in the sunday. The last thing I saw was his hand raised in a wave, not of goodbye, but of "see you soon." A jolt, violent and raw, shot through my entire body. A gasp of air burned my lungs. The peaceful hum of the workshop was replaced by a frantic, high-pitched beeping. I felt a dull ache in my head and a strange tingling all down my left side. My eyes fluttered open to the blurry, panicked face of Miss Gable and then the faces of paramedics. I was on the floor of the classroom. Someone was shouting my name. I could hear sirens in the distance. I was back. I was back in the Shadowlands. They told me later I was gone for 19 minutes. A massive ischemic stroke. The neurologist at the hospital showed Mark the scans. The damage was extensive. He told my husband to prepare for the worst, that if I woke up, I would likely never speak or walk again. 3 days later, I woke up, asked for a glass of water, and wiggled the toes on my left foot. When they did a new scan, the damage was gone. The doctors couldn't explain it. They used words like spontaneous healing and unprecedented. They called me a medical marvel. But I knew it wasn't a marvel, it was the work of the artist. Jesus sent me back with a message, and it's a very simple one. Your soul is listening even when you aren't. The world is full of loud, convincing voices that want your attention. They want to shape how you think, how you feel, and what you believe. And many of those voices are like a cold wind trying to blow out the beautiful, unique light that God placed inside you. He isn't asking you to live in fear of these voices. He's asking you to be wise. He's asking you to choose. Choose to turn down the noise. Choose to spend time in the silence. Ask yourself, does this song, this show, this person I follow, does it make my flame burn brighter? Does it make me more loving, more hopeful, more kind? Or does it make me feel colder, angrier, more anxious? The great artist is real. His workshop is real. And he is calling to you through the noise and the shadows, inviting you to come home. You just have to be quiet enough to hear him.